detectives. Only the strong survive. We made the final round. Now we try to stay alive. Manga Monday, heading to outer space. Manga Monday, together all the worlds will face. Manga Monday, fight to live and live to fight. Manga Monday, never stop till we get it right.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Manga Monday show here on the Weird Science Manga and Anime Podcast. I'm here with my man, Luke Hollywood. What up, Luke?
What up, Jim?
What up? And, oh my goodness, we have a very special, Chad, this is my pick, too, for Manga
Jim's
Monday.
pick.
I just want to mention that.
What's going on with the list?
One of my favorites. This is one of my favorites. And as you reminded me this morning, as we're, recording this, but this morning, this morning when you mentioned that this was actually a book that I ended up introducing you to.
Well,
that doesn't happen
I was
much.
teaching you.
Exactly.
Oh my
and
goodness.
it was about a year ago or so when that did happen. And I ended up recording an episode for our other thing going on. It's not going to be anything quite like what we're going to do here tonight, right? Because it's always fun to talk with somebody else, me and you talking about this book. And this is kind of like, it's always been sitting in the back there.
On the back burner.
I really like it. It is one of my favorites, Toilet Bound, Hanako-Kun. And every time I go to say it, I always forget what it's called. And I just,
one of your favorites.
The Toilet Bound. I'd always say stupid stuff like that, but it is one of my favorites. And when I reread it 3 times today. Well, I read it once, and then you told me, hey, I didn't start yet. I'm like, I'll read it again. I read it again, and then
I fell asleep.
I was waiting for you. And I'm like, I think he fell asleep. So I read it again. And then you ended up messaging me. I almost fell asleep. I said, I'm thinking to myself, get rid of that almost. Almost. I actually was at one point. I wouldn't have recorded this on my own. But at one point, I'm like, am I going to have to? I thought, oh, no. And I started doing other things. I was making eggs, all this stuff. But we're here, and I would hope that you ended up falling asleep because of a hard day's work, not because of this chapter.
Oh, yeah.
Because rereading
this chapter give me sweet dreams because it was so pleasant.
It would. It's very wholesome, right?
Very wholesome.
And it's even funny. At one point, it tries to hint that it's going to get sexy, but it doesn't. It's kind of a joke.
No.
And with that, though, this is really one of the perfect examples of what we really do like in a first chapter.
Absolutely.
Because you stick with the two main characters pretty much the whole time. You end up getting, bit of the background, the world building, but it's more about the characters and more about, what's important to them and whatnot. And in that, like the first time I reread it, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, we have our main character, Yashiro girl, who seems to be, unlucky in love. But it's more than that. And by the end, I want to cry. And then I want to smile. And then I laugh. And then I cry. And there's a lot of emotions with that. Even with I think that this is one of the other ones that I don't know that I've said this too many times when we do, even the weekly manga chapters and things that. Very weekly. I figured you would come in with that. But the art does a lot of the emotional storytelling in this as well. And the only other one I think that I really got that much feels was Medalist when we had that. That actually had, but it's always just big eyes and crying.
There you go.
That gets me every time. It gets me every time, every single time. And you have it in this, and it's so well timed when you do that. But let's get into it. Give me some info, Luke.
Yes, this is Jim's pick. He gets early access on the list. Oh, jeez. Flushes.
That's damn right, I do, by the way.
The Toilet Bound Hanako-Kun's written and drawn by, here we go, Idalro, Jim. That's how you say it.
That sounds good. Yes.
There you go.
You're better than me at the pronunciation. I can't even pronounce that. I can't pronounce. I can't pronounce.
Yeah, you can't pronounce Kun.
I don't
there
even
you go.
know. Yeah, Kun.
Happy days.
You go.
First published in Square Enix's. Oh, the Square Enix doing the Final Fantasy.
The Final
A
Fantasy.
Shonen Magazine Monthly G Fantasy.
Speaking of which, wasn't Medalist a Square Enix one, or am I?
Was it a Square Enix joint?
I thought it might have been. I don't know.
It's been a while.
Keep going.
I don't know.
Maybe.
20 questions over there. Jeez. So here we go. Published from June 2014 and still published today in the monthly magazine for a total of 15 volumes. And get a load of this. I was very excited when I found this out. Volume 16 dropping today in Japan. Oh, we're hot off the presses in Japan.
It's hot off the presses. I can't believe it.
Oh my goodness.
I'm never going to be able to use the sound effect ever again, so I'm going to use it really big. Yeah. Yes. That's crazy. We didn't even know that. That's pretty cool.
And here's the thing, 15 volumes out in the West, where it is published by Yen Press. So we're doing pretty good in the toilet-bound Hanako-Kuns. Now, this is one of the ones where it gets the digital release earlies, and then you can get I think they're up to like volume 11 or 12 on the print releases. And you know me, Jim, not to toot my own horn or nothing, but you know that I'm getting both. Because I love this.
I know. And I introduced it to you. And I remember when I was going, and this was like the second or third thing. It was very quick. Days. And what I ended up doing was just looking up stuff of like hottest manga of 2020, hottest manga 2021. And this kept coming up. And it made me giggle because it had toilet in that. And then I start reading it. And I'm like,
you thought it was going to be one of these like childish, like goofy ones.
Yeah, but I also thought, in a way, right off the bat, oh my God, it's like the Moaning Myrtle in the Harry Potters. And it kind of is a little, but I actually went to read it the first time, almost like a gag, almost like I know that this is going to be silly. I'll just read it really quick and then I'll move on, because I was trying to do some things, because when I started reading the manga and having our podcast and stuff like that, this is when I did it by myself on the other deal. I wanted to do some things that people, they weren't big on their list. You know, I ended up doing like Fire Force and things like that. And this was one of them. And like I said, I was really impressed with it. I really liked it right off the bat.
Wow.
You ended up saying, all right, I guess if he likes it, I'll give it a shot. You probably thought it was going to be stupid, right? And then you ended up, we both love it. Now, with that, I've only read like 2 more chapters after this. I'm not going to tell you that I am up to date on this. You are up to date on a lot more than me, right? I got 5 kids to ignore.
Oh,
that takes ignoring kids. Ignoring kids takes a lot of effort in my house. So I have that, but I still really do like it. But give me some more info, because it's pretty popular, right?
That's the interesting thing. And you're saying like, you find the sleeper hit. I don't know how
sleeper it is.
Yeah, I don't know what the story is for this.
It was for us.
Here's the thing. All right, we have you got it on the list, but we have the anime here. The anime adaptation, only 1 season, from January to March 2020, 12-episode season. So just that little 12-episode season. But this is like the little season that could, Jim. Because you go on to you remember I showed you on the links, the YouTubes, that opening, the anime opening for that first season, 4 million hits on YouTube. That's
crazy.
That's not just any old thing.
No,
4 million. You know what I mean?
It's not the Beatles, but it's up there. I mean,
whoa.
And with that, I laugh because anytime I try to show my youngest son Logan anything on like YouTube, like you like this. He doesn't care. All it is how many views, and if it doesn't have a certain amount, he's out. He doesn't even look. So I'll have to show him that, because he'll be in. Even though he'll tell me it's for emos. That's all he ever says. That's all he ever says. Anything else
that's the interesting thing, because if you look at that, if you look at the intro and you look at the animation style, they are because the one thing we can say about Idal Rose art here, very distinct, very like the heavy line art on the characters, and they kind of incorporate that into the animation in a very unique way. They keep that unique look from the manga and they port it over to the anime, which is pretty cool. Maybe that's why it's got the 4 million views. I don't know. So you got all that good stuff. And last of all, no stage plays yet. I don't know if they get the fish tanks in or what they would do.
Or the toilets.
Or
right?
the toilets.
You gotta watch out for that.
Oh, no. You get the plumbing going on.
Yeah.
But, no, none of that. But we do have an art book coming out in November.
Yeah, you sent me a link deal and looked pretty cool.
I'm telling
what
you,
I saw looked good.
I don't usually go for the art books, but I like the art in this so much and this collects all like the little Twitter sketches and all this. I think this is going to stick this one on the Christmas list, everybody.
Putting that on the Christmas wish list?
Yes.
I wonder if you've been good this year. I don't know if Santa is going to come and give it to you. Anything else?
That's it. Let's get going.
Well, here we go. And it is, I want to say what the chat, because it's Spook One, Hanako-San of the Toilet.
Toilet.
You start off, and it starts off as if it's going to be kind of scary. I mean, you definitely do start off with almost like a Nevermore type deal with, hey, did you know this school has 7 mysteries? Now, that's also the idea of it, like, 7 mysteries? What's going on here? And they say that if you find the true story behind each one, something will happen. And one of these mysteries is number 7, the mystery of the Hanako-San of the Toilet. And so what this is, it's kind of a cool deal. Now, again, I don't know what goes on in Japan with things, but here it's like the Bloody Mary, even like the movie, Candyman. It's if you knock 3 times on this certain deal, a lot of 3s in with this about finding the 3rd stall from the end of the girls' bathroom on the 3rd floor of the old building, knock 3 times, summons a ghost, and you can end up asking it a wish. You can get a wish. And what I like about this is it doesn't play around. I mean, at the beginning, you have that one page that it's giving you a little background. We like it because it's got the Gossip Girls there. But
page 1, Gossip Girls.
You have the Gossip Girls, but you don't really, their faces are blacked out.
That adds to the spooky vibe as well.
And it almost gives you the idea, too, in my mind, that this is something that every year people keep saying. You don't have to think of them as specific Gossip Girls. These are the all-time
evergreen Gossip Girls.
That when you get and even seeing the school that you don't really see much more of in this first chapter from the outside, but it does has a gothic look, an old look. And I think that the idea of that would lend yourself to think, ooh, I'm going to that school? It looks haunted. I bet you they have this. And you know how schools are even, where everybody has these tales of things and stuff. So it's really cool the way it sets up. And then you have our main character. We don't know her name yet.
Well, ain't she just cute as a bun?
So cute. And that's what breaks your heart here, because nobody has tried harder to get somebody to like them and fail so epically because they just spend too much time trying to do things. Like, the only thing in this is you just think that, first up, this girl, Yashiro, Nine Yashiro, if she would just go and start talking to people, maybe, I think that she wouldn't have any sort of problems whatsoever. But the idea of this, and it's so cool at the very beginning because it happens so quick, is that, again, you're in the girls' bathroom. You knock 3 times, and this ghost of a girl, Hanako-san, will come out and grant you wishes. Well, you go in, and she does this, and she looks in the toilet. Nothing's there. Thank God in the toilet. But you end up where behind her is like, over here. And she did it. There it is. There's the ghost. But it's a boy.
It's a boy.
And it's funny the way this goes back and forth, and really the art style I love, and especially when right away tries to put her hand, tries to touch the ghost and goes right through his head. But she's all confused because this is supposed to be a girl. And I love it right away because she's like, oh my God, it's a see-through body. Oh my God, what's going on? You're a girl. What's going on? I don't understand that. And it's the idea of following the fashion of the day. And that stuff, that's, passe.
He got his ear to the pulse of the occult streets. Jeez.
And I like the outfit that he has on, that when I initially saw it, he looked to me like an elevator operator.
I was thinking like conductor of the spooky train. Like an old-time
conductor of the spooky train.
Yeah.
I really do like it, though, and I like that. You get a bunch of things right away. These ghostly orbs. It even says a see-through body, ghostly orbs, a really old uniform. Oh my God, you're and then he says, I'm supernatural.
Oh.
I'm one of the 7, mysteries. I'm one of the school's 7 mysteries. Hanako-san of the toilet. Nice to meet you. Tips the hat.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a boy. And it's so, like, everything is so cute. He's cute as a button.
Oh, cute as a button.
I mean, both of them are so cute. But again, like we said, it's like, I like her little asides when you end up where he's like, listen, you can call me Hanako-kun if you want to, but, the stuff of a bob haircut and a red, that's not in style anymore. Supernatural follows the styles, and she's all excited. And he's like, yeah, I'm a boy, but, everything else you heard is true. And you go through this, it keeps going, and why I like it, especially reading it more and more, is the idea, you have Yashiro, and she'll spell it out. The idea that she wants love spells. Mm. She is somebody who thinks that, almost that she's not worth anything. She needs to get a boyfriend. She needs to be a couple because that would give her, and she'll do anything to do that. But right off the bat, Hanako, you end up seeing that he seems to care about her.
Oh, yeah.
Right away, and questioned, like, this isn't just a genie that you end up, rubbing the lamp and you get the wishes. Of course, the first wish is you wish for 8 million more wishes. That is just, what you do.
The monkey paws.
But he right away, doesn't want to do what she says.
If he didn't care, he would do the wishes. The way that he's approaching the situation, he's actually caring about her a lot because he doesn't want to, get the monkey paw going here. Because that's the thing. You get a wish, but you have to give something in return.
Yes, and he says that right away. And it's funny because he's like, all right, yes, I'm Nini Yashiro from Class 1A of the high school division, and I want my crush to fall in love with me immediately. And he's like, okay. And I like he's got his notebook out, and he's like, all right, yep, Yashiro got that, wish fulfilled, okay. And then starts asking about this other guy. But even before that, what I also like is Yashiro right away thinks that this might be some sort of trick and that Hanako is a pervert. And says it a lot of times in this. Like, she really does. And then you end up having Hanako, he's running kind of scared later, even saying, listen, I'm not being a pervert. Because she says right away, how do I know that you're just not a pervert? She put his hand, she went through his head and things like that. And it's funny, like, the idea of this too is, she has a real strong sense of what she thinks this is supposed to be, yet it's not that way. But yet she kind of goes, but what I like about it is, like we said, he says the idea that there is a cost. Mm. You're going to have to give something up. This is something that you have in all types of stories like this.
Right.
But right away, when you get to the nitty gritty and, hey, what's going on with this guy? Who is this? Who's your love? And she's like, oh my God, it's this guy, Minamoto senpai. He's so smart and handsome, and he's the prince of the whole school. Mm. And you end up having, he's like, okay, I see. Let's go. And so then he just pulls out pretty much like, he seems already to not want to screw her over with like a full out spell. So he pulls out this like how-to book on meeting people. Like, that's his thing. Like, this isn't a spell. He pulls out this
for
book.
Dummies.
Yeah. And he's like, okay, well, if we do this, you're going to owe something very important, whatever. But in my mind, this is not what that is. He pulls this out. They do legitimately just try to win this guy over without spells. And I don't know if she really realizes this at one point, thinking that he is doing spells. He just has and he's reading it and trying to like figure it out himself as he goes and says like, method 78, make use of your special skills. And I'm telling you, that is just because he opens to that page. And he's like, okay, do you have any special skills? And it's such a good way to show you that this girl, Yashiro, has just done too much. Mm-hmm. She's given up, her life at points to try to impress people in a way that is so over the top. Because you tell them with this gardening and the idea that she wants to live, and this is the idea. This isn't the love that she has now. This is going back. She's going to talk about how she tried to win this other guy over.
And that's big feels. Yeah, but we're opening up this book, and this is, as you were saying, like, this is their way to get the secret loves. And we start off, the first of all, we have the using of the special skills. We see her doing her guarded. She's got her guarded outfit on. And then this is where we have the feels of what happened in the past. Because she's a high school girl now, and she's trying to get the second year lover. But back in middle school, it didn't go so well. Because there was this guy that she was interested in, and he had a crush on the feminine girls. So she was thinking she'd do the garden, and that would be something that he'd be impressed by. And that's why she took up cooking and the sewing too. So, like, she's doing triple dipping here.
All for this guy because he said he likes feminine girls. And she has pretty much just done what this guy in passing said and really, put a lot of effort. But you go on. Right?
And then that's the thing. We get that, like, all this time, it took her 3 years. And then she confessed her love just a month ago. So this is still freshly broken-hearted Chip. And we turned this page. I sent you this page earlier. This page is heartbreaking.
The first time I read it, I almost cried.
The waterworks going.
Because there's a couple times and a couple things that you can do that you put yourself out there for. I always say one of the things is like singing to somebody. Because you're really putting, because if they say like, oh, who sung that? Why don't you let them? It breaks your heart. And you're like, oh my God, it really knocks you down. But to actually say, I love you, and to be laughed at, it's heartbreaking. And I don't know how, because if you look at this page and really this panel and go with it, you're like, okay, you got the big, like, it's almost that stupefied look. And it says shock, but you can see it. It's so well done of her, like, what do I do now? I've just spent 3 years trying to convince, like, thinking just, and it does. It makes me very sad thinking that, like, up until, like, the night before, she couldn't wait to get the stuff.
She got the love hearts and everything.
She has this box with stuff and ends up, like, saying this and thinks that this is going to be the start of their big relationship. And he just laughs, huh? You love me. You're not my type, and you have chunky radish legs, which back in when I did that, I didn't know what that meant. I still don't. But with that, radishes come up a lot in this.
That's a sticking point. This might have happened a month ago, but that is fresh in her mind.
It's so sad. That page is so sad. Now, again, to go back a little bit before, when you end up having this love book, you do have a big moment where Hanako says, if you want powers beyond human understanding, the price is going to be really, really high. So why don't we start with this? And so he's not doing spells anymore. And when she ends up talking about this, he, in my mind, is the only one who's talking. I mean, she has a ghost friend. Nobody's talking to her. And finally, somebody is seeing, like, what's going on? Because at one point, you're like, how long did you do this? How long did you, like, he's already, I think, caring about her because of how, like, she's nice. I mean, you get that right away. I mean, she is somebody who's going to morph for anybody else or whatnot.
Dedicated.
But then you get pretty much one of the biggest pages, I think, in the whole deal, where you end up where she starts crying. That was a whole month ago, but that's fine. I have my new senpai that I'm going to fall in love with, and I'll show him. And that's where Hanako, in a laughing moment, says, you'll take anyone, huh? And that kind of makes her like, huh? She, like, stops and looks at him and like, of course I won't. Come on. That's silly. And he's like, yeah, but, you're kind of just doing all this stuff. How much do you know about this new guy? Like, do you even know his given name? And again, the art plays such a big moment where you see her, like, wide-eyed. Now she's crying again. And it makes me so sad because you can see how nice and how desperate she is. And she tries to change the subject.
There's a book.
It's cute, right? There's a book. I can feed that to the koi. But this is where you get this deal where I think that, Hanako is already thinks that he has to help her. He has to make this
like
work.
A book.
Yeah, and with that, you don't know anything. And what we get as we go on in this chapter is the idea that Hanako is new to this, especially in the spirit world, and seems like kind of like he needs a friend too. So this works out, and I think that he, plays it off a bit like he's knows more or whatever, but I like this idea of them teaming up and trying to do things, but he does not want, almost like curse her.
It's
with
less of
giving her
like
the
the
deal.
spiritual shenanigans and more of the Operation Love shenanigans. We get the rest of the chapter, like we get some more I don't know, like occult mumbo jumbo.
You do get that. I mean, eventually you get that. I think that what
most
this is,
of it is all just like school shenanigan romance banter.
And with that, you're here for, oh my God, the occult and stuff like that, but you don't realize that it's the friends you meet along the way.
Oh my goodness.
Because with that too, you even get that idea where they talk about the whole mystery of Hanako and that, you have to go to the third room, the old building and stuff. Like, nobody's coming and knocking anymore. This is something, he's very lonely. And so with that, he ends up, and it's funny by the end, what he ends up doing and what he ends up helping her with, but kind of making it so that she gets her wish. But I think that it's his wish as well. Ooh. But with that, again, he ends up pulling stuff out of his, pocket. And it's funny because it's just nice stuff. Everything is very
not what
wholesome.
You'd expect from a ghost.
And she doesn't think that either. She's like, let's go. The first thing's a note card with a pen.
The love hearts.
It's like, oh, what's going on? Well, this is what you're going to do. You're going to give something to your senpai. I like it. I call it Operation Present. And it's even in air quotes, it seems. She's like, that's not very creative. Like that. He's like, I'm new to this, but this isn't magic stuff. This is what they've read in this book. So he keeps doing this. She keeps expecting it to be something, occult or spiritual. And it's not, but she's going with it. And it's giving her a little more, thing. It just also shows that she's really doesn't know how to woo somebody or things like that. But again, it's supposed to be stuff that, what's your skill set? What are you good at? What do you have? We're going to work with that. And the garden stuff is the big deal. So they're going to do it. And she gets so excited. And it's so cute the whole time where she's going to end up giving him this note and also a little gift. Now, with that, she thinks that he ended up picking up her pencil box. Again, you get the idea that that's when she fell in love with him, right? Yeah. The idea
that probably some random event, but that's the highlight of her year.
This is the craziest thing where she has fallen completely in her mind head over heels for this guy because he must like me and we must be made for each other because he picked up my pencil box.
We
also see, I'm telling you, one of the funniest things later when it comes up, but boy, this guy has the whole school, in his grasp, right? And anything, with one little snap of a finger, there's people ripping off their clothes for this guy. But she thinks that that they're meant to be. Doesn't know anything about him.
It's very innocent.
Doesn't even know his name. That's the craziest. And that was shown. But Hanako, he's gonna help. So they go and they give him what is a summer vegetable display.
Oh, delicious.
Now, this isn't the weirdest thing that
not
they
the weirdest,
do.
But they have the right, they have the right spirit. But I think the execution of this plan, it leaves a little bit to be desired.
Yeah, there's 2 cucumbers, 2 tomatoes, and a note.
Just sitting there.
It's funny because they go, and I love just the idea of Hanako and Yashiro. They're looking around the corner to see how it goes. And everybody's like, oh, man, something's weird on your desk, dude. And he's like, oh, what's going on? Like, hey, do you have a fox or something? Because it says, thank you for the other day. But remember, she thinks that this little connection they had was something that both of them think is the greatest thing ever, that this was going to make them, a couple forever. So she doesn't even say who it's from or whatever, because she thinks that he would certainly know. It's a mystery. And she's like, I didn't want that to be a mystery. It's an unsolved mystery. And then they start talking too. And the weird deal, she's like, I shouldn't have said thank you because it seems like I'm just giving him repaying kindness, which again, that's what it should have been. But she's like, oh, we messed up. Epic fail. And you have radishes being mentioned again. The worst part is she's yelling and crying. She's with Hanako, who's actually levitating at this point behind her. Nobody can see him.
So now she's a crazy radish girl.
They go, look at that girl over there talking to herself. She's pretty weird. She's crying. She's over the top. And one of the cutest things with a chapter of just pure cuteness is when Hanako decides they're going to change gears and like pumps his fist in the air and says, this didn't work. I hope you have other skills.
She does a little pump.
yeah, and she's like not real into it. And he's like, come on, pump it up. And she's like, okay, I pump myself up too. And they're going to try to figure out the next thing they're going to do. And this is when it gets a little wacky. She does get pumped at one point too, but the idea of all these things going forward is just wackiness, because now it's, what is this? This one's Operation Buttons, right? Is that the first one? The funniest one is the bento box, but the button cracks me up with everybody else's reaction. Now, do you think that Hanako uses some of his spiritual magic to get rid of his button? Because this senpai is missing a button on his shirt. So he says, listen, and again, remember, she learned cooking, sewing, and gardening. So he's using these skills. He said, we got to use your skills. So the button deal is the deal. You're going to go up to him and say, hey, you don't have your button. I'm going to give you a replacement here. I'll sew it on, and he'll see how great you are, and he'll fall in love with you. So this guy comes in, and you end up where she's like, oh, you lost a button. And he's like, oh, you're right. I wonder when that came off. She gets stampeded by two girls and a guy. I mean, this guy...
And the guy ripping this, like, he's not even using the same button. He's using the shirt button.
And look at them. Like, they are ripping their own buttons off to give it to them. This guy, though, he rips his shirt open so the buttons are flying. So he's like, no, mine. They are fighting. They are fighting to give him a button.
I will be Minamoto-kun's button.
It's so funny. And you know that's that dude. And then it's like, epic fail. Like, and they're like, you're like, oh my God, that didn't work. So you only have really one more skill, though. In a funny deal, we'll still have a couple more attempts, even with just one skill. But the other skill's cooking. And he says, okay, well, the summer vegetables, they might not have worked, but we'll use those. Let's make, and this is Operation Lunchbox. And again, remember, we're here almost halfway through. No real spiritual occult stuff, but this is all school shenanigans and romance school shenanigans that we love. And so it's like, okay, well, we're going to use your other deal. Let's make a bento box. We'll make one, but I don't want to make a boring old one. Let's do one that is a character bento box, right? What the heck are they thinking with this? Because what they make is a horror box that I don't even spooky. I can't explain this.
It looks like the Jujutsu Kaisen's fingers.
I mean, I don't even know. Usually I could sit there and say, okay, well, the one thing's a sailor. I don't know. I mean, she's really good, it seems.
The one in the book is all like, it's got a cat. It looks real cute. You open this one up, and that's so cute. Oh.
Doesn't it look like a monstrosity frog with a, like, freaking something coming out, a vestigial twin?
It's still kind of, like, in a roundabout way, a little bit cute. You know what I mean?
It is. I mean, as we're doing this now, we're getting near the spookiest month of the year in October. This would be a good deal, but it's like a couple weeks around that, but they seem to be going springtime stuff, so they probably missed that. But
and they love.
You end up with, and they even put it, they wrap it up in little hearts, little wrapping. And the one guy, again, I really like the way they play this out, because sometimes with this, we would have learned too much about this guy. We don't want to, because you want to be in that mode of she doesn't know anything about him, so we don't but he's sitting there with this other dude there, and he's like, hey, look at that, you lucky dog. You got something from a girl? What, do you get a girlfriend? Oh, what's going on? And he ends up opening it up and sees this and like, oh my God, I think someone dropped it. I'm going to take it to the lost and found. Again, every bit of this is just breaking Yashiro's heart. She's there on the ground crying and says, I went overboard. Fail. So we keep getting these fails. Next one is Operation Corner of Love. This is a classic. We almost had this in Witch Watch.
Oh, yeah.
In the regular deal, where remember when you ended up having Nico and Khan, and the big thing was when Moi walks by, we'll get the big thing in your hair, the wind and stuff. So this is when you end up having this guy, he's walking down the hall, I'm going to tell you when, and you'll go around and you'll run into him, and then you guys can talk. This will be great. Now, they're setting this up, and a lot of times the joke is, like, we're on 3. Like, on 3 or that. But the big thing is he's trying to give her the word, like, I'll say now. She thinks that he says now then. He's just saying, I'll say now will be the signal. Oops. She runs out. And in the funniest way, it's off panel, but you end up seeing Hanako. He's like, oh my God, he's in shock. She literally puts a kid in the hospital because she runs out when she's not to, crashed into a middle school boy who fell down the stairs and is hurt. So that is a fail. The best part of this I love is she ends up after that crying, upset, looks like she conked her head and goes, what skill of mine did this even involve? Because they were doing those skill set things. She goes, and that last one didn't even have anything to do with my skills, but you feel bad for her. She keeps failing. I do like, though, that when this all goes down, they do run back to the bathroom where they could just kind of
HQ.
Yeah, it is HQ, and they could be away from everybody. And then Hanako comes up with probably the best idea. Goes, why don't you just tell him you like him? Why don't you just go and tell him? And she's like, what? Like, this is so over the top for her. And she's like, I can't do that. And that's where Hanako says, I'm just a beginner here, too. That's the only other idea I can come up with. Remember, he's not using magic here. He doesn't want to curse this girl. And I think that at this point, they become friends. At least he likes her hanging around. That's the other thing. I think that there's the layers here. Where if he right away, make that boy love me. Okay, here's a magic spell. Give this to him. That she goes away then.
Yeah, he wants to hang around and goof off and do the crazy love operations.
This is fun for him. Some kid who hasn't, ghost kid that hasn't had anybody talk, but then he lets it slip that he is new and he's a beginner. And she flips out. She yells. I like where it's almost like he's deflated then as he's going around like a balloon.
Beginner.
And then she starts going like, I thought it was fishy. Like, you're supposed to be doing spells. And the things that you pulled out of your, pocket were just wholesome stuff and weren't really spells. Hanako gets pissed. It's like, I don't just have wholesome things here. He seemingly pulls out a nudie magazine.
Nudie bag and some other things.
The other things are weird, but they're not that bad. And he throws the nudie magazine as if that's not the deal. He's trying to find something that's so unwholesome that he'll prove that he's like, I'm not that lame spirit that you're saying. And he pulls out a Kokeshi doll, and she's like, yeah? Like, what about it? She's like, and he goes, pretty suggestive, right? It's not. It's just a doll. And that's when you end up where I think that he's worried at this point again that maybe she will ditch him as he goes running off. She ends up finding something that he dropped. This is the big deal. This is something that is of the occult, is spiritual, and will end up screwing her completely if she uses it. Now, with that, you could take this as him going like, no, stop, don't do it. But no, I think that he really is trying to stop her. The problem is I think that there's something involved, the rules of the spirit world. He is a wish-giving spirit, right? So I think that he can't really stop her completely from grabbing things or doing things.
Duty bound.
And he's trying to say, give it back. You don't. And the worst is it's called the matchmaker, the matchmaking deal. And she pulls it out. It looks like a coin, but what we're told, it's a mermaid scale. And he's like, you don't want to use that. Give it back. Don't. And she, out of nowhere, she swallows it.
Why did she put it in her mouth?
I don't know. No. But how many times are we going to get this? Where, like Jujutsu Kaisen, all these things where people are just eating weird stuff.
This random
That's the thing. Yeah, if you end up having a spirit or something that you're told is real nasty, occult, don't eat it. Maybe try to figure things out, but she does. It's almost like she eats it. And that's when he has to explain that they're mermaid scales. If two people swallow them, they are. And the matchmaking deal, this isn't a love potion. What it is if you end up having two people eat these scales, they're bound together sharing a curse. And so it's not even that great a thing overall, but If you share the curse, you're bound together and you take equally the amount so it doesn't affect you as much. The problem is she's just eating this. So what is she going to do? The only thing that she really can do is go and see, the senpai that she wants to love and whatnot and, try to make him eat this. So she does. But even with that, like when she's like, you're a liar, he's saying
that's a heartbreaker. And this might be more heartbreaking than that other, like the love confession, because this is the end of the friendship with the Hanako-Kuns. Oh.
And that's the thing. Just the idea, again, she will do anything to get but will she? Because she doesn't know what that means, really. And that's like her whole concept is she's been trying desperately to get somebody to be a couple with her, but doesn't even know how to go about it. So when she swallows this, he says, I told you not to do that. You'll be cursed. And she goes, I don't care if it means Minamoto senpai will be a couple, then I don't care if I'm cursed, and all that. And like, you had a magic item, you lied. Again, he did lie. But
for her own good.
He didn't want to do, like, he's the nicest, spirit ever. Jeez. Where he already knew right away, this girl does not deserve this. And again, like the idea of like, she's a little flighty. This is the guy. I love him. Well, what about the guy a month ago? Oh, I hate him. And you spent 3 years to get. So she has to go off. I mean, this is at the point where, you got to put up or shut up here. She goes off to see Minamoto. And when she goes, she looks like she's late because a girl. And again, I love that idea of confessing. This is what we get through with all these. Somebody's confessing their love to him. But you go from there because I've been yapping. He what does he do then to this other girl?
That's the thing, and like she arrives just in the nick of time, just too late. Whenever she sees this other girl confessing, she's loved him since our first year. So I think this one's a third year as well, or a second year as well. And then she's watching. Oh no, I was so close. And this is where we have Minamoto-kun, Minamoto senpai. Sorry, I'm in love with someone else. I have been for a long time, and I just can't be with anyone else. And this is like deer in the headlights from Yashiro here. Oh my goodness! And she can't believe this. And that's when she lifts up. She has this mermaid scale thing, so it doesn't really matter if he's in love with. This is where like she gets a little desperate at this stage. As long as he eats this, we're like bound together with our curse. And then she's remembering her being a little bit flighty, what Hanako-Kun said. Was not like that really, but it is. And then you have her.
And just a sec. That's when he said, "You'll take anyone," and you keep going. But that she realizes that,
it's
maybe
true.
Yeah, I'm not really in love with this guy, right? And then the crap hits the fan. Because she starts turning into a fish. I mean, you see the scales. And she's like, oh, my God, what is this? And the weird thing is when you first read this, I think that this can be a bit confusing the first time. But once you realize what is happening, then you realize how cool these couple pages are as you're seeing her turn into a fish and pretty much regretting everything that she's done, all the time she wasted, all these things trying to getting cursed. And she says, I worked so hard. Why did I do it? And then says, I really didn't work that hard. I seem to think I did, but I never really did what I should have. I never talked to these people. These guys that I say I worked so hard to fall in love and whatnot. I didn't because I never even talked to them. I don't know their name. I don't know this. And starts thinking of Hanako, who, Hanako said, you tried real hard. You worked so good at this point. Like, he doesn't know. I did. Like, she's so down on herself.
And she's blaming it on her. I did this to myself, all of it, which she did. But it's still, it's harsh when she kind of comes to this reality,
Yeah, and says, I put all my effort in the wrong thing, assuming it would pay off. I even tried the supernatural for help, only ever thinking of myself. I think that that's the thing, too, where you don't get it completely, but if you want to go layers, she goes up to Minamoto and he hears that he says he loves somebody forever. And I think that she thinks it's not fair. It's not fair for me to give him this deal and make him love me. Again, you'll find out stuff and whatever. But the idea of Like, is it fair for me to force him supernaturally to love me when he just said that he's loved somebody for so long? And yeah, that's why I think she's saying, I'm just thinking of myself. I just want these people. Let me never thinking about them or what they would want. And it is a little heartbreaking.
Oh,
but
big feels.
again, what I like about this chapter and about this book is the pacing of it. I think is so well done. As you have this crazy deal as she's turning into a fish, and then you just go like, "Found you," and then all of a sudden, it is Hanako who is putting her in a. You don't see it right away. He's putting her in a fish tank, and there she is, and she looks in the mirror, and it's so cool that you could tell it's her. As a
she
little
has like
fish.
her little like bow and the little like skull necklace.
Yeah, she is like her as a fish, and that's the problem there. I mean, at this point too, I think that Hanako is showing that he doesn't really understand completely how awful this might be, and maybe it's because, well, she's gonna have to be my friend forever now because he's like, ta-da, you like it? Pretty cool. He ended up giving her like some of those fishbowl things in there.
She's got a little house.
And she's like, why am I a fish? He's like, I told you that if you do this, it comes with a price. This is why he didn't want to have to do that and whatnot. You've been placed under the mermaid's curse. And so this big thing, and I love that idea of like, hey, if you ended up giving it to somebody else, you would only share it. And she has this idea that it's going to be like a fish head with
half
legs.
Fish, half man.
Well, you share it, but you are bound together. You're bound. That's why they call it the matchmaker. It's not necessarily bound in the way of, oh my God, I love you. And like what she might have thought, but it's that you share a curse. You're always going to have that connection together. But then, yeah, he asked, why didn't you use it? Why didn't you give that guy the deal? Because obviously he has it there in his hand, that other scale. But you can tell. I mean, she turned into a fish. This wasn't shared. And she says, I didn't like him. I didn't even know him. You were right. Everything you said was true. I would have taken anyone if I could have been part of a couple. That was my real wish. Now you got fish crying that still has the feels. Now we go supernatural. And I'll let you take over again because this is where, if you're waiting this whole time, I'm telling you, I didn't sit here at this point where we're almost done. I didn't sit here and say, man, this was ridiculous.
Where's the supernatural?
Where's the supernatural occult stuff? I want that. I thought this was the ghost stories. You get it, though. And
it comes quick. Like, it comes hard and fast.
That's what I'm saying. This pacing, I think, is so well. And when you do get into this, I'm into the friendship going. I'm into the shenanigans. But the way that it goes into this whole, supernatural stuff, I didn't then say, oh man, I want the other stuff. Like it's so well done that you're there.
I think that sets the scene here, and that's at this stage now. After all those big feels, we care a lot about both Hanako and Yashiro.
That's the thing, and again, we talk about it all the time about stuff, and even I ended up this past week on our DC podcast, just out of the blue. There was an issue of The Flash, and I said I didn't have the feels that I know I was supposed to have. And yet I read this, and it's like there is that like secret ingredient of going and getting, and now I care for both of them.
Boom.
And what works out in this is the idea that you end up having the mermaid come, right? The mermaid shows up,
creepy
and they're just creepy. And any other time or whatnot, I mean, Hanako should pretty much be here. It's yours. I mean, this is the mermaid's curse. The mermaid has come for Yashiro as the fish and has every right to do this. And usually I think that you'd expect if this was like, here you go. I can't do anything about it. He is desperately trying to figure out a way that he can do something to save her, including just saying, hey, listen, you know me on this wish-giving deal. I never got to give her her full wish. Kind of lying because she kind of took it herself to get this, but can I give me some like leadway and let me? And this mermaid is just like talking a lot of crap on him, right? The idea that he is just even the idea that he's a beginner, but just the idea of a pitiful little school legend. I like that concept.
Like he's low on the supernatural.
I love that. I love the hierarchy of these curses and things. Like, yeah, you're just one of them school legends. That's nothing. But he is something. I mean, you see, and isn't it the power of love like Huey Lewis taught us?
Oh my goodness. Old people music.
He does seem to care so much for her that he's going to put it out on the line. He ends up at one point saying, like, it's not going to be good for my rep. Like, how am I going to get people to come to me after this if I don't get one deal? The big thing, though, in my mind, is that when they're talking with this, you ended up, the joke was before, everything you pulled out of your pocket and things was wholesome. Is that all you have? Even then, the worst he could get was that doll. Pretty suggestive, right? Now that the crap has hit the fan, as I said, and he pulls out a cleaver, not even out of the pocket. He just pulls it out of himself to attack. So this shows you in such a cool way up until now. If you thought, oh, he's kind of a joke, he's not a real, like, nasty spirit. So you could get that idea of, well, he couldn't really do anything. You still like him, right? You still think that everything that's going on, I really love both of them. But you kind of get that idea of, like, oh, he's just a nice spirit. He pulls out this cleaver. He's going to go to town.
You were slicing and dicing. We're having sushi for dinner. Oh,
yeah,
my goodness.
Really. Mermaid sushi. And hopefully you get the fish part, not the human part. You don't need that. The big thing of this, too, by the end of my mind, is the idea that this is not something, again, everything, including magic, has a cost. This definitely has a cost to attack this, ages. Even says, I've been around for centuries, and you're just a school legend. You're nothing. And he ends up attacking. And the big thing is that this mermaid, spirit says, like, what's up with this kid? Like, he has something here. Like, he is real strong. Why is he that strong as this is going on? And ends up saying, how could a puny supernatural who was born mere decades ago possibly have so much power? Curse you, school mystery.
School mystery.
I love it as it goes down.
I guess Team Rocket's blasted off again.
Yeah, and it just goes, and I love that he has to catch, Yashiro in the tank because the mermaid was going to take her away. And it's like, well, we got rid of that mermaid, but, this might screw us later. It says pretty persistent, might be back, whatnot. But I guess it's fine as long as we manage to buy some time. We'll figure this out. Now you got Yashiro Fish crying again, and what's going to go? Why were they going to take me? If only I'd made or never made the wish. And then he just starts giggling and sees that she's crying. He's like, crying won't help you now. This is what happens when you get involved with supernatural. You can't do this. Yeah, it gets pretty creepy and pretty much is like tapping her. And it's like, you little dummy. And then says, listen, you're going to have to give me something. You really do think that he's getting perverted, right?
Oh.
You're going to have to give me something. You're going to have to give me your body. It goes like that whole deal. But I like the idea that this is a spirit who already has spelled out that, and never said if a spirit takes this other scale, what would happen. But the idea, he is willing to share this curse with her. He wants her to not be as cursed, but says, hey, I can help you get back to being, just almost human. Like, not quite. You'll have some problems, but not that much. Would you be willing to do that? And I love the idea that she's like, what price? But then is willing to do whatever. She doesn't take long. Right? She really jumps to the gun right away. She jumps the gun. Every time, but says, I'll do it. Change me back. Please, Hanako-san, make me human again. And he's like, those are the magic words. And I love that he flips it, catches it, and then puts it and eats it himself. You'll pay for this with your body. And you're like, oh my God, are we Ayakashi Triangle stuff here now in this bathroom? And I love, like, even the progression where now she has the fish tank on her head because she's popped back to being human, water all over the place. And now she thinks that there's trouble because he goes, in exchange, you'll give me your... And then you tell him what he says.
Hard labor.
Yeah, and has the
construction sign.
I love that. The construction sign, and he's like flashing her the okay. And the progression of it is so good because when he is saying in exchange, like it gets creepy, right?
Yeah.
And then goes full out so cute with him with his big eyes. Hard labor. She's like, what? It's like, I always wanted a human assistant. So you'll be able to do that. Now, with that, if you're going to think of the idea, okay, what could hard labor be? Right off the bat in the next chapter, if I remember, she's cleaning a lot of toilets. He's
She's
very
cleaning toilets.
toilet-based, right?
There you go.
So that's the deal. But he wants somebody around. He likes us. And then basically says, it worked out, though, because this is what you want a couple. Now, at one point, she has that stunned look again. And then you're like, did you think I was going to be saying something dirty? And then calls her,
goodness.
you naughty little radish. And then she fights. But yeah, and that's the big deal. And it's a cool setup where she does slap him and she can touch him now. It doesn't go through because now they are intertwined. Their fates are intertwined. And that's what they got. And you have a splash page. Yeah, it's
gorgeous.
So cool. Yeah, it is. It really is. And even with they're in the classroom at this point, and they're going, and I mean, just the detail of the chairs knocked over and the fan and stuff, it's really, really good. Though, when they're doing this, you got the flowers, too. You got some flowers going around. It's like, okay, to you, you got it. You got your wish. To be bound to somebody is the same as being a couple, right? And they're like, well, kind of. And then it says, that's how I met him. And look, she's crying again. She's like, couple. She still adds the mermaid skeleton. He says, when that dries off, you'll be fine. And she says, in a twilight classroom, red with the rays of the setting sun, I met a supernatural boy who was not of this world. And then you go. Then at the weirdest thing, because you do have one more page. That really, in my
this
mind,
almost feels like the setup for the next chapter.
Yeah, it doesn't fit very well. It's just basically of things that are forgotten don't fade out of existence. They kind of are still around.
Fairies.
Yeah, and it says, have you ever heard the rumors of the fairies? And then you go, and again, there's some little, candles burning, an old radio, and some flowers. But, yeah, by the end, it's really good. And it's such a wholesome deal, but it really, it makes you feel for both of the characters because you do get the idea. They're just lonely. They're two lonely characters. One just happens to be a ghost boy. And again, it was supposed to be a girl. He's changed. There's a lot of stuff that goes on and goes on for this. But at the beginning, right now from this, there is pretty much some hard labor. She does have to work her way.
And she gets right into it, the contract starts.
Yep, yeah. And again, two lonely people who just want to hang out.
There you go. They're so, it's like opposites attract. The MC's
dead and alive.
Oh
right?
My goodness.
You got it all going. But yeah, I'm at probably give it a 9.3.
Nice.
I really do like it. And it's just the cuteness of it, the wholesomeness of it always gets me. The amount of times I've read this first chapter now, even today. And each time I do end up smiling and thinking, oh man, you want to give them hugs at points. And it's just very, very wholesome. And again, even with that, there are some layers to be found in that.
Big time.
It does what we love. It makes you care so much about these characters, even though we don't know everything about them. That's the weird thing. You don't have to know where they live or you just have to have the situations that make you care about them. And I care about them. I care about them a lot after this first chapter. What would you give it?
Well, you see, if you're giving it a 9.3.
I knew. I gave you a little leadway because I was going to give it a 9.5. And I thought I'd better give it a 9.3. Wow. So look how you went. Are you going 9.5?
I mean, you said it yourself.
It's so good.
You would read.
Now that you said that, now this is my trick. I got you. I'm going 9.5 as well because I do think it's a solid 9.5.
And you wouldn't read one chapter 3 times unless there was something there to keep you coming back for more.
No, it was because you fell asleep. But besides that, no, I'm telling you, I didn't care. Each time I read it, I was smiling. It was fresh, and I started thinking of these other layers as I was going.
Boom.
And a lot of times when I read something that many times, I'll start picking it apart. I'll start seeing that, oh, that didn't make sense with that, or that didn't lead well with that. There's not a lot wrong with this. The only thing is it's hard to give a first chapter without knowing everything about the world and the situation. It's hard to give it a perfect score. But close. It really is.
This is one that even when you finish reading, you just go back and just look just purely at the art. Because this is one that the art really sells.
Yeah, and it's the art style, the character expressions are incredible. And even then, you're not doing crazy over the top monsters constantly. A lot of it is just school rooms and shit, but it's really good. I mean, that's where you realize how good the art is, even when there isn't like backgrounds. Like you have some panels like that, but when you don't have that, you still have other things that are so detailed.
When we do get the monsters, then that really stands out as well.
It really does. And the art, even gets better. I mean, as this progresses, it gets really, really good. I'm now, because I have the volume, I'm going through the whole deal. And again, though, it's so wholesome, so nice. And the funny thing is, reading this again, if you like Witch Watch as much as we do, there's no way you're not going to like this, because I even get like Nico vibes a bit.
And
with
they even
this,
do like the kind of Magic Club shenanigans a little bit, with the love and all that stuff. And
even like a con is kind of like the way that I think of Hanukkah.
There's a guy, without spilling the beans, there's a guy coming in like later. I think he comes in around volume 2. He's like prototype Khan. I'm telling you, like split an image. Yeah, so it's really good. Those big eyes that you sure have, it make you fall in love with her. Cries a lot though. Very emotional. Very emotional. Right? Very emotional. That girl.
Yeah, she likes the love.
Oh jeez.
But yeah, that's that. That's the end of the show. I hope everybody goes and checks this out.
Order that art book, everybody.
Yeah, that art
Christmas
book, everything.
List. It's
cool. And then go be the 4 millionth and first person to watch that intro, all of that. But with all that, go over to our, Twitter.
That's it.
Problems at the end. And I'm telling you, there is a cricket down here, and it's going nuts right now. And I hope you don't hear it, but it's driving me insane. With that, though, go to our Twitter at Weird Manga. Also, go to our Patreon, patreon.com/Weird Science Manga, where you can get up to 14 of these Manga Monday episodes in advance, as well as our weekly, very weekly Picks of the Week podcast. I wanted to throw it in there for you so you could get that. But our Picks of the Week, very weak, right?
Yes.
Each week, that may even add a book or two. Who knows? Ooh. We have a lot of books, and I'm trying to catch up with more, even though we have no space for it. So they have to go somewhere. We'll figure it out. We'll figure all that out. But yeah, check all that stuff out. Also, rate and review would be nice.
We love that.
The deal, we got one. After I yelled and screamed, we got one more, not a written review, though. Just a star rating, and I'm happy to say it was 5 stars, Luke. So that's good. I would say that's all for you.
Oh
my. Oh my. But with all that, hey, thanks everybody.
Yes.
And we will talk to you next week.
We are